Hello everybody, SlimKirby here. Welcome back to more of the Fire Emblem Hector mode playthrough. Hope you guys enjoyed the secret bonus chapter that we had last time. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next chapter. We're at chapter 20, the Dragon's Gate, the finale of the Darren arc, I guess you could say. So one thing I'm going to very quickly point out, I didn't exactly get to show it because I'm not using them. But Kent would actually have some beginning chapter dialogue here on the battlefield. Now, in Eliwood's mode, if you brought Sane, he would have dialogue there. So I just found it kind of funny that, you know, in the Eliwood mode playthrough, Sane's the character when I used Kent, and in Hector mode playthrough where I'm using Sane, Kent has the dialogue. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. But yeah, those two have dialogue for this chapter, depending on what playthrough you do. But as far as this chapter is concerned, this chapter can be kind of tricky, especially if you want to do it optimally, because Legault actually comes on the first turn. And not just that, he actually starts where the treasure chests are. And to top that off, he doesn't have any lockpicks. In fact, none of the thieves in this chapter have lockpicks. So they only have chest keys, and they're going to go to the treasures, and they're immediately going to leave. Now, a lot of the enemies in this chapter do have door keys, so there are some enemies that'll open up doors for you as they're advancing through the level. So it's not too hard to get to where Legault and the membership card thief are going to be, but you still have to kind of work at it a little bit. Basically, you have to make sure that you're at the top of the map where Darren is by the time Legault crosses over to that point. Then you recruit him, you can try to steal the member card while you're over there, and then you can destroy the thief and then make off with the treasures as you see fit. So, because of that, it does kind of force you to kind of be on your toes and kind of get things moving. Because, yeah, you kind of have to, you don't really have the luxury of time in this one. Again, if you want to get everything. Obviously, you don't have to recruit Legault, but it is nice to have an extra set of hands on you, especially if you haven't really been leveling up Matthew that much. As far as other differences, Darren, he has a spear this time. I believe in the Eliwood mode playthrough, I think he just had like a silver lance and maybe a hand axe, I think. He didn't have a spear, I know that much. So he kind of changes his weapon. And aside from that, there's really not a whole lot different here. It's pretty much the same basic chapter. You'll expect a lot of the same units in all the similar places. Not really a whole lot to talk about here, aside from all of that. When I went through this chapter, I pretty much just played the way I wanted to play it, and it was pretty similar to what I did in Eliwood mode playthrough. Also focused on a lot of my lower leveled units, getting them kind of up to snuff, and I think at this point I have like a lot of my units at level 17, so they're getting to the point where they're going to promote a lot earlier than they were in Eliwood mode's playthrough. It really does help with Hector mode, because for Hector mode you have many more chapters to play through, so because of that your units are going to be promoting a lot earlier. I also find that they also get to level 2020 a lot earlier too, so there's a lot of cases in the late game where you might use a character that's already fully leveled up and they can't exactly get experience from that. But yeah, that's pretty much how I played that one. Sarah also promoted in this chapter as well. You'll see that promotion in the level up section. I'll probably put all the promotions there. But yeah, that's pretty much how this chapter went. Pretty easy and pretty standard chapter. Again, you have to play it kind of quick at first just to get to Legault. But aside from that, though, it's really not too bad. I want to say you have about like 5 or 6 turns to get up to the top. That sounds about right. Could be off by 1 or 2. Don't really know for sure. But yeah, somewhere in that range. You should be fine, though. It's really not too bad, especially if you know what you're doing. But yeah, that's pretty much Chapter 20, and I will see you guys for Chapter 21 next. Is that okay, Hector? Huh? Shouldn't you go with him? Thought about it, but there was someone else who looked ready to start crying, too. Oh. Hey, Ninian's gone. Where'd she go? I'll go and look. Hold on, your sister's been through a lot, too. Let her be for a while. I don't need you to tell me what she's been through. So what do we do now? I wonder what happened to Nergal. Okay, here we go. Chapter 21, A New Resolve. This is going to be probably a very, very, very quick rundown through this chapter, because again, not a lot different here. There's more flying units because it's Hector mode. That kind of goes without saying. There's also no monks at the very beginning of the chapter. In Eliwood mode, to the left and to the north and even to the south of you, there were like a few like rogue monks here and there that could just like kind of walk up to you and fire their lightning blasts at you. That's not really the case here. A lot of the units kind of start over on the right side and they just kind of come pouring in. There are a lot more units on the right side for sure, but it's really not too bad. Again, if you have a thief, which you should, or even a torch staff, you can be very well aware of those threats before you get to them, and you can defend accordingly. So it's really not that hard of a chapter. Pretty much the same as I already said. Oleg, the boss of this chapter, he has a killer axe instead of a silver axe, which he had in Eliwood mode, but he also has a steel bow, which for Oleg, you'd want him to use that first. So lure him with Oswin or something, have him come towards you, but not quite in his axe range. Let him fire his bow, then surround him. Make sure you steal that hero crest if you really want it, and then just beat the crap out of him. That's really all you have to do. As far as other stuff, Barter and Oswin promoted in this chapter, so that was cool. My two like main frontline defensive units finally got their promotion. They actually helped quite a bit in this playthrough, so definitely glad to have them promoted now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I also had to bench Len in this chapter because you couldn't really bring a lot of units to this chapter. It's a very small unit pool that you can bring with you. But again, since Len was pretty close to level 20 and didn't really need to have another sword user, she seemed like the best person to bench for this one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and move on to Chapter 22. Ambrose, what? Do you need something? Eliwood, you don't need to worry. Despite what you think, he's the strongest there is. You're not having the greatest run of luck either. I'll wager you never thought things would turn into such a terrible mess, did you? If it gets too much, you can leave at any time. You're a reliable and dependable tactician, but you're not our servant, you know. If you think our task impossible, you should get out. You're as smart as they come. I know you don't need me to tell you that. Let's get some sleep, okay? Gotta rest when you can. That's even more true in the middle of a campaign like this. Eubans, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. Guys, Eubans sucks. He's not a good unit. Eubans is not that cool, but, you know, he'll always be a Puddle Plains meme, and that's all you could really ask for. So yeah, we have Chapter 22, Kinship's Bond, Reaver Weapons. That is the main subject of this map. Pretty much every unit except Eubans and except magic units, obviously, have Reaver weapons. So because of that, you're going to have to think backwards in this map. Always make sure you use the opposite of what would normally be the case. So if you're fighting against sword users, use axes. If you're fighting against axe users, use lances. If you're fighting against lances, use swords. You just got to think backwards when it comes to the weapon triangle. That's really all this amounts to. Eubans also is at a different location this time. He still won't move. I did find out, though, in hard mode, for both Eliwood and Hector mode, he does move, so keep that in mind. But as far as like the normal mode playthroughs, he will not move. It takes a little bit longer to get to him, and he's also kind of surrounded by forests, which can be a pain, but it's Eubans. He's a frickin' paladin. He uses a spear, which is kind of a dangerous weapon, but you have Hector. Hector will absolutely destroy him, and, you know, you could even use Eliwood and Lyn with their respective character weapons, because they'll also be powerful against Eubans. Eubans is seriously like the least threatening boss that's ever existed. He's not that good. He's funny as hell, but he's not that good. I do kind of want to give a quick shout out while we are kind of talking about Eubans. The reason why, or one of the reasons why Eubans is such a meme, is that my good friend Odinspack, Odinspack33, he actually did a Let's Play a long time ago, a Let's Play of Fire Emblem 7 Randomizer, the Eubans mode playthrough, which basically was a typical Fire Emblem randomizer. He randomized all the units and like what classes they were, but he also replaced Eliwood, Lyn, and Hector with 3 of the bosses from the game, and Eliwood was the Eubans, so that's kind of why he is such a huge meme. But it's a good playthrough. I had a lot of fun watching it. If for some reason you're not tired of this game, definitely consider watching the Eubans Randomizer, because it was a very fun project. Probably one of my most favorite Fire Emblem projects I've ever watched personally. So yeah, definitely check that out. But yeah, as far as this chapter is concerned, because I plan to use Heath in this playthrough, which is kind of an unfortunate decision of mine. I'll talk about that later. But Heath, not really that great as you'd think you would be, because Wyvern Knights and Wyvern Lords are freaking cool. But due to Heath's availability, he kind of needs to be babied at first, and that's kind of what I had to do for these next few chapters, because he starts at level 7 when all of my units are about to promote. So yeah, he has some work to do, and it's really kind of hard to use him here because he has low speed, he can't exactly double a lot of units, and you know, he comes with a very weird set of weapons. He has an Axe Reaver and a Javelin. So it's really kind of hard to use him here, but you know, if you want to use them, you kind of have to figure it out, because you don't want them to fall further behind, and there's not an arena until like chapter, in Hector mode anyway, there's not an arena until chapter 24, so we still have a little ways to go with that. So, you know, just be very wary of that, and that's kind of what I had to do here. I focused a lot on Heath, and if there were any other units that kind of were getting close to level up, I also focused on them. Sane, Rebecca, and Canas promoted, so that's cool. And my lords are getting closer, my other unpromoted units are getting closer. We're almost at the point where all of our units are promoted, and I really can't wait for that, because we have some very exciting chapters to come, and it'll be pretty easy to get through those parts of the game because our units are promoted. But yeah, that's going to do it for Kinship's Bond. Thank you, Eubans, for being such a meme, and yeah, let's move on to the next one. Well, we're going, brother. Take care of yourself. And Marcus Foray, too. You must be Eliwood's support and strength. I know. This has gotten also out of hand. Still, it's not entirely hopeless. Lord Elbert's death need not be in vain. We won't lose. You're beginning to sound reasonable. Hey! What is it? You're coloring. You don't look so good. Is something wrong? I just heard a tale that would frighten anyone. When I think that the future rests on the shoulders of a man like you, who lives so haphazardly, I realize that my life's been too short. Bah, is that any way to be? And I was worried about you too. You should get going, your friends are waiting. Haha, pardon my overlong visits. I will take my leave of you then, most honored elder brother. Hector, what is it? Remember, I have not given you permission to die. Heed the orders of your Marquess and return to me alive. I'll bring you a tale you won't believe. Mark my words, brother, I shall return. Okay, next up we have Chapter 23, Living Legend. This is the desert chapter, and this is where I said that using Heath was probably not a great decision on my behalf. Why? Because, well, as I already mentioned, Heath is not a great unit. You know, just the fact that he is a flying unit means he's going to be taking triple damage against bows. And he's also got very low resistance too, so, you know, while he does have, like, better defenses and better strengths compared to Pegasus Knights, his defenses get a lot more weakened due to the fact that he is, you know, super effectively weak against bows, and then also the magic triangle pretty much wrecks him as well. And in this chapter, you really have to use your flying units at the beginning if you want to get that bonus chapter, because Pent is on the other side of the map. Both bosses are on the other side of the map, and if you are not quick, Pent is going to wreck both Paul and Jasmine. So I got very, very lucky here. I got very lucky that Heath did not die. He got close. He got very close to dying, but thankfully I raised him up just enough so he could hold his own, get a couple of kills here and there, and able to rescue Pent and bring him back with not very much difficulty, but again, I'm not going to lie that it wasn't a close call, because it definitely was. I had to also pray that Luna didn't crit as well, and you never like being in a position where you don't want to, when you're praying to not get a critical hit from an enemy. So yeah, that's pretty much the main difficulty of Chapter 23. It's really just the locations of the enemies and the bosses. Because they're located on the other side of the map, it's a lot harder to get to them. But for the most part, the chapter pretty much plays out the same way, so I don't really have to say much beyond that. Obviously, I spent a lot of time giving more experience to Heath. Also got some experience from Matthew as well. I'm actually really surprised how close Matthew is to getting to level 20. just because I'm not really good at raising thieves. I always see thieves as the units you want to use to steal stuff. You don't really need to use them as your fighting units, but I've been paying a lot more attention here to Matthew, and it's honestly because all of my units are pretty much almost promoted already, so it's been a lot easier. So yeah, that's pretty much how I handled this one. Also, I forgot to mention this, but the starting location of your units change as well. In Eliwood mode, you kind of start at the top right where the grass is. In Hector mode, you start at the bottom, like straight in the middle of the desert, so you can't really move much at the very beginning, but, you know, something you gotta do. And also another thing worth mentioning in Hector mode, if you play this on Hector hard mode, this level has fog, and I am not joking when I say that. This level has fog. So when you're doing Hector hard mode, if you ever want to put yourself through that endeavor, you're going to be dealing with fog in this chapter, so keep that in mind and stay safe, because fog is no joke. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. Reminder, you need to get about 700 experience if you want to get the bonus chapter here. So make sure you rescue Pet as early as you can. Definitely use your healers and Ninian as much as possible, just to kind of give you more experience along the way. Because the next chapter does give you a lot of experience, and that's experience I'm going to want to need for Heath, because he's still not quite where he needs to be, and that chapter should kind of put him on level with everyone else. So that's going to be our next objective, so let's go ahead and move on. Also, Guy promoted, but at that point he was like the only other unit of mine except Heath who hasn't promoted, so it was only a matter of time. But yeah, see you guys for the next one.
I name you Kashuna. You are the only morph to whom I've given emotions. It won't suffice simply to refer you to as a number. It is said man was sculpted by the hands of the gods. If so, then you, who were sculpted by these, my hands, and I, whose labors gave you breath and life, what are we then? What does that make us? In your fabricated heart, which I gave unto you, what is it that you believe, Kashuna?
Okay, next up we have Chapter 23X, Genesis. I can't believe I'm covering 5 chapters in this video today, but hey, you know, not a lot really happened in these 5 chapters, so I'm kind of glad that we're, you know, getting through this as quickly as we can. Chapter 23X, Genesis, pretty much the same exact chapter with one very, very key difference. Kashuna actually moves here. He doesn't move very much. He kind of just like rotates from one room to another room. I think he kind of like tries to follow some of your units too. It's weird. He kind of like hugs the wall whenever you have a unit against the wall. I think it's because he's like trying to follow you around and like kind of trying to suggest that if he did have a way to attack you, he would. But that's really the only difference here. Kashuna moves, and that's pretty much it. That's really all I have to say about this chapter. He does move the magic seal along with him whenever he does move, so be aware of that. If there are any units that are outside of the magic seal, make sure you use them and avoid them effectively, whether it's an allied or enemy unit. And just, you know, be careful because these units are promoted, so you have to, you know, accommodate for that. They have stronger defenses, they do a lot more damage, and stuff of that nature. But a lot of the magic users are pretty crippled just because of the magic seal, so you can keep that in mind. And also don't forget the difference in weapons or rewards you get for this chapter. If you open the door in the middle that leads to Kashuna's area, you will get basically one of each silver weapon. And if you actually attack Kashuna, he will disappear and you'll get some magic units instead. And you don't get like A-rank magic tomes, but you get a very specific tome from each type of magic user, as well as a staff too, from what I remember. So yeah, you can do that if you want to get a couple of extra items of your choosing, what you decide, what you think you need. I personally went for the physical weapons just because I have more physical units than magical units right now. And I honestly think that in terms of the weapon selections, those are probably a bit better. As far as other things that happened in this chapter, Heath did promote. I also got a couple of my units up to level 20 as well. My Lord units, so they're kind of all set and ready to go for future chapters. And that's pretty much it. I think that's all I have to really say about this. So next chapter, we are going to be having an exclusive chapter, not to Hector mode, but it is a chapter we haven't seen before, because when we played Eliwood mode, we got the Lloyd version of Four-Fanged Offense. In Hector mode, we're going to be playing the Linus version, which means you have to have all your Lords up to a combined level of level 50. I was way over that mark, so we're going to be getting the Linus version. And I actually really like the Linus version. I like the chapter a lot more than the Lloyd version, so it should be a lot of fun. And because it is a new chapter, the next video is just going to be focusing on that chapter. So hope you guys are ready for that. It'll be a big one, and may even be 2 videos. I haven't decided yet, but that's what's going to be happening next. So thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you guys next time. Later, folks.